as soon as you look at the title of this chapter, you'll note that we're going to be in Latin America. Going to talk about consolidation of Latin America. Now, I gave the years 1830 through 1920. I'm really going to back up a little bit. Remember, we're talking the time period 1750. Generally, this time period is 1750 through 1900. We're going to take ourselves all the way through 1920 because for Latin America, World War I does not really impact them. You're about to see why here in a minute. But World War I doesn't impact them. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what does impact them during this time period, and that is their movement towards freedom. Okay, so what were some of the problems with creating new Latin American nations in the early 1800s, in the early 19th century? First off, we've got the role of religion. What will be the role of religion in these new countries? Will they be theocracies? Will they be run, at least in part, by the Roman Catholic Church? Because remember, it's, Spain and Portugal settled this part of the world, and they were both Roman Catholic. So we've got that. What type of society is it going to be? Is it going to be one with aristocratic things? Will we have equality of the races? Will it not be equality of the races? Well, how's that going to work out? What's going to be the nature of the economy? Are we going to be mercantilists? Are we going to be just suppliers of raw materials? Will we remain plantation, or will we try to move towards some sort of manufacturing? What form of government? Will it be democratic or will it be monarchies? Plus, they're always going to feel threatened by the Europeans. There's always this feeling of, if we can just get them to leave us alone, we'll be okay. They're always threatened by foreign governments. They're afraid of imperialists. In the beginning, in the early 1800s, they're not afraid of the United States, although we will come to be seen with some trepidation in Latin America because, well, in some ways we act pretty imperialistic. And then there's a fear of each other countries seeking territorial economic advantage. Now, if you look at this map, you'll see I've got the United States up here. That's Britain. And then everything in yellow is claimed by Spain early, the Portuguese, and we do have a little British. Notice it says British after 1803, when the British will get stuff from the Dutch. But that's where we're headed, is towards independence for these guys. All right. There were attempts before 1800 to gain independence. Why were they failures? Well, class differences were just too much to overcome. The wealthy worried a great deal that they would lose power. And in 1799, right on the verge of these independence movements, you'll see you've got these different countries here. But the main thing is the aristocrats are afraid if there's a revolution that we might go to democracies. And if we go to democracies, the aristocrats will lose their position because everyone will have political power. Okay? All right. Now, what are some of the causes of political change? Well, you've got the American Revolution of 1776. It provides an example. It seems to inspire a lot of people. You got the French Revolution of 1789. This is an inspiration for people in Latin America, but this regicide, regal killing, meaning killing of kings, regal killing, and the rejection of the church and the social leveling is just too much for the aristocrats and the Creoles to absorb. So they're not going to follow the French Revolution. Now, Haitian Revolution of 1791, it provides both an inspiration and it scares the devil out of the whites and the European descendants in both Europe, but really in the Americas. Led by an ex-slave, a guy by the name of Toussaint L'Ouverture, he overthrows French colonial control. Takes him a while to get them to gain it and to grant him and recognize the freedom of Haiti. So we've got the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the Haitian Revolution, and perhaps most importantly, problems back in Europe with Napoleon, the confused Iberian political situation. What do I mean by that? Well, you remember Napoleon comes to power in 1799. in France. And one of the things he sets out to do is he sets out to take over Europe. And as he does, one of the places he will conquer will be Spain and Portugal. And he will appoint his brother as leader of the Iberian Peninsula. And what happens is Spain and Portugal and France are so busy dealing with their own problems that they ignore their colonies. And when they ignore their colonies, the colonies are going to see this as their opportunity to break for freedom. The colonies are going to see this as their opportunity to break for freedom. Okay, so what was the order of independence in Spanish America? Actually, they break away, what I've got here, break away in reverse order of exploration. In other words, those who first explored are the last to gain their independence. And those are the islands up here, the West Indies. These are, or East Indies, the West Indies, the islands here, the Caribbean. The Caribbean will be last. Argentina, Venezuela will be first. And why does the Caribbean go last? It's fearful of slave resistance. They've seen, right here, you notice a little, I got the arrow pointing to a little blue. That's Haiti on the island of Hispaniola. They break free and gain their freedom. All these other islands have lots and lots of slaves and lots of people of African descent. 90% or more in some of these places. And they are scared to death of independence because they're afraid what this means is the slaves will rise up and overthrow them. So they actually hold on to their contact with the Europeans, particularly the Spanish, because what they want from the Spanish is the Spanish military to protect them against their slaves. So understand that. Caribbean go last because they've got lots and lots of slaves and they are afraid of their slaves. In 1820 through 1833, a guy by the name of Bolivar, who has Bolivia named after him, will try to create a Grand Colombia up in here, what these nations up here in blue. You've got Colombia, Venezuela, and Ecuador will try to create Grand Colombia. He has a vision of creating a greater Spanish empire. Or not Spanish empire, I'm sorry. A greater South American nation. One that will unite as much of South America as possible. It doesn't last. Too many differences to have this happen. All right, we'll stop here, take a little break, and then we'll do part 2.